we have seen the type 1 driver, and in this tutorial we are going to talk about the type 2 driver, that is native API driver, or sometimes it may be called as partially Java driver. So we know that drivers help us to communicate from the Java application to the database. So I'm having a Java application and I have written some application code in the Java application. Through the JDBC API and type 2 native API driver, I want to communicate with the database. So here the role of type 2 driver, that is native API driver, is to take the JDBC API calls and convert it into the native C or C++ API calls. So task of type 2 driver is the kind of making conversion of JDBC API calls to the native C or C++ API calls. Then we require the database vendor libraries in order to complete the communication from the Java application to the database. So here these type 2 drivers are not provided by your Java software. These type 2 drivers are vendor specific. That is, if you are using the Oracle database, then you have to have the Oracle specific type 2 native API driver. So these are also platform dependent. That's why type 2 driver is also platform dependent, not independent. Even these database vendor libraries are also vendor specific, means which type of database you are using, that type of database vendor libraries you have to have. Otherwise the communication is impossible, or communication cannot be take place. So database may resides on your local computer or client machine, or it may resides on the remote machine. So we could establish the communication to the remote place also. So in that scenario, it becomes your client server configuration. Then we'll try to see this is a block diagram of type 2 native API driver. So all these components from the calling Java application to your JDBC API to the native API driver, that is type 2 driver, and even database libraries API, all these components should be on your client machine. Okay, so it's not like that you should keep the one of these component to a remote machine or other machine. Okay, all these components have to have on your client machine, and database may be on your client machine, or it may on the remote place. Okay, that doesn't matter. So if you see the example of type 2 driver is Oracle call interface is a driver which is actually from the Oracle and which is of a type 2 category. Okay, that is OCI, Oracle call interface. So now try to understand some advantages and disadvantages of having native API drivers. So as we know that type 2 drivers are not having JDBC ODBC bridge, that is the ODBC bridge is not present in our type 2 driver. That's why the overhead of ODBC driver is eliminated in the type 2 driver, and this is how we could improve the performance of a type 2 driver. So type 2 drivers are more good from the performance point of view than the type 1 driver. If you talk about the disadvantages, as we know that we required vendor specific database libraries. Okay, so we have to install all those libraries on the client machine or our local machine. So type 2 drivers are platform dependent, means whatever the platform you are using, on only that platform these drivers are dependent. It's not a kind of platform independence in type 2 driver. And third point of disadvantage says that these drivers supports all Java application except applet. It means that your type 2 native API drivers are suitable for the standalone application only, but type 2 drivers are not suitable for the web application or distributed application.